Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. As I mentioned in the discussion forums, I'm going to be doing paragraph 4, sentences 8 through 9, and I wanted to film myself actually going through this process here in my textbook so you could kind of get an idea of the sorts of questions that you might need to ask yourself when you come across forms that you might not know or when you come across constructions or things like that. So I'm doing this ad hoc. I have not really sat down and spent much time with this sentence before. I looked over it briefly. And I'm also not going to edit this video very much because I want to get this up as soon as possible so y'all can see it and kind of look through it and get an idea, like I said, for what kinds of things to look for when you're translating through a sentence now that you've got quite a bit under your belts in terms of vocabulary and grammatical knowledge, etc. So, digging right in here with sentence 8. I'll read it to you first, and then we'll work through it. Kai en gizonta estein komen edon auton hoi adelphoi kai elegon pros heautus legontas. Edu ho sophos erkatai ho dechomenos sophian in te nukti kathiudon. So, this is, as your book said, Story of Joseph, Part 1. I think Part 2 shows up in the next chapter, and so this is adapted from the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, and you'll often see Septuagint abbreviated like this. It's the Roman numerals for 70. The history of the Septuagint, it may be legendary, but it says that that the Septuagint, which was a Greek Old Testament translation of just the Torah, so just the first 5 books of the Old Testament, that the Torah there was translated precisely the same, word for word, from Hebrew into Greek by 70 or 72 scholars, depending on which version of the tradition you hear. So that's the story that it was most common in antiquity, hence the modern abbreviation of it today, the Septuagint. So anyway, this comes from the Septuagint, and it's a story, like I said, of Joseph and his brothers. So, starting off here in verse 8, as often happens when you translate from Hebrew or even Aramaic into Greek, many of your sentences will begin with a conjunction. As you can see here, walking through the paragraphs, Sentence 1 starts out with Kai. Sentence 2 starts out with Kai. Sentence 3, Kai. 4, Kai. 5, Kai. 6, Kai. 7, Kai. 8, Kai. And on down. 9 and 10 do not. This is one way, especially when you get into the New Testament, this is one reason why we can know that the authors of the Gospels had a very Semitic background. This is common in Hebrew to start out sentences with Vav, which is one of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet. It also it is prefixed to words and means and or something along those lines. And so to translate it very literally from Hebrew to Greek, you would place all these kais at the beginning of your sentences. Dr. Hawley can tell you a little bit more about all that when you get into your Hebrew classes. So we will actually get to sentence 8. There's just a number of things that I have noticed now that I'm not sure if I have explained before, but you'll also need to know these things just to know more about the New Testament. So actually moving into sentence 8 now. We've got this, we started out with a conjunction, kai, and gizonta. Taking a look at this ending here, I know immediately that this is a present active participle, and I've got a suspicion that it could be masculine singular accusative, or it could be neuter plural nominative, or neuter plural accusative. Based strictly on the form here, though I can't distinguish which one of those 3 it is. I know it's present active participle because I've got this verb stem here, engeeds, which comes from the verb engizo. I draw near or approach. So I'm looking to see what else in the sentence will tip me off to know whether this is masculine singular accusative or one of the neuter plural forms. So, engizonta estain, komein, adon. Okay, so adon is second aorist active indicative, and it could either be first singular or third plural. Again, based strictly on the form, I don't know for certain, but I need to continue to look further into the sentence to find if there is a subject. So if the subject is singular, then this would be I. I saw him. Our tone here is obviously masculine singular accusative, and so him is the direct object of this verb, adon. But what we don't know yet, because we haven't looked further into the sentence, is whether adon is second aorist active indicative first singular or second aorist active indicative third plural. So moving right along, we actually find out that this is masculine plural nominative, masculine plural nominative, and so that tells us, because hoi adelphoi is our subject, this is third plural. Again, context, context, context. Well, that also means then that up here at engizonta, this participle, engizonta and auton both seem to be referring to the same object, which means then that this is masculine singular accusative. So let's put this first clause together. And in order to do it in good English, you cannot follow the Greek word order slavishly. You've got to shift some things around. So I'm going to work with this just a little bit and see kind of where we come up with, or what we come up with. Let's see. And approaching the village, the brothers saw him. Or maybe, and while approaching the village, the brothers saw him. Okay, so these are Joseph's 12 brothers, or not 12, these are Joseph's other brothers, and they saw him while he was approaching, or while he was drawing near to the village. So something along those lines. And while drawing near or while approaching the village, the brothers saw him. And elegon pros heautus legontas. Now, this is a peculiarity that I noticed earlier. This is from Lego, and this is from Lego. And they, so I think in order to make this into some smoother English, you will need to do something with the glosses. Now remember, glosses are the words that we use to translate a Greek word. So we have the word Lego here. It means to speak audibly, to say something where people can hear you. That's what it means. I hope you can see my air quotes here. That's what it means. But in order to translate that, we usually say something like, I say, or I speak. Here's probably another good example. Baptisma. What it means is to be fully immersed into something, either to be dipped all the way underneath or something along those lines. And this is not necessarily a doctrinal point. This is just, kind of a semantic issue about what the word meant. So when you were talking about baptisma, it was the idea of dipping or plunging or immersing an object totally underneath something, usually liquid. So that's what it means but the word is glossed. I'm saying glossed here. The word is glossed with things like, or with English words like immersion or baptism. And baptism is obviously a transliteration of this Greek word baptisma. So, I say all that to say that what we have up here is two words that are it would honestly be redundant in English if you were to say, and they were saying to themselves, saying. This is, unfortunately, a typo. That should be legontes. And that's another reason why I wanted to do this sentence, because I don't know that many of you would catch that. So, not because you are unobservant, by no means, but because you already have a lot going on in the sentence to begin with. So what we have here is imperfect, active, indicative, third plural. We know it's third plural because our subject is plural. If our subject were singular, this could be imperfect, active, indicative, first singular, based strictly on this omicron nu ending here. So they were saying to themselves, saying, because this should be legontes. This is present active participle, masculine plural nominative, both forms from Lego. So I mentioned glossing because I wanted you to see that you can do some different options here in the sentence to increase the quality of your English sentence. So here's how I would translate this clause here. And they were speaking to each other, saying. And they were speaking to each other, saying, because speak and say are both good glosses, good translations of the word Lego. So putting together this first half of the sentence here, we have, and while he was drawing near into the village, the brothers saw him, and they were speaking to each other, saying. Well, this comma here and the capital letter on idu indicate that this is a direct quote. So in your translation, if you were to do this sentence, I would want to see a direct quote, like an actual quotation mark, capital letter indicating quotation, etc. So it says, behold, ho sophos. Yeah, this footnote down here, sophos means wise or wise one, if you use it substantively. So this is an adjective. It means wise, but when you use it as if it were a noun, it would be wise one, or because it's got this omicron sigma ending, a masculine singular nominative, you could say wise man or wise person. If it had a feminine ending and it were hey Sophie, it would be something like, the wise woman or the wise girl. So we have, behold, the wise one is coming, or the wise one comes. This is ironic. They're teasing him because they're upset at his dreams. So, behold, the wise one comes, the one who has received, or the one receiving, wisdom in the night while sleeping. While sleeping. They're teasing Joseph because they're upset at his dreams, as you remember from the story. And so, ho sophos, erkete, this is simple. Present deponent indicative third singular from erkomai. Remember, it's deponent because even though it has this present middle passive ending, it's active in meaning. Ho dekomenos, this is present deponent participle masculine singular nominative. You know it's masculine singular nominative because of this menos ending. But even if you did not remember the menos ending, but you knew, because you're smart, you knew that this article is the article that goes with this participle, you know that ho is masculine singular nominative, And so your participle has to match. Your participle has to agree in gender, number, and case. So, ho is masculine singular nominative, dekomenos is masculine singular nominative. So, Sophian is feminine singular accusative because it's in that form, and so it's the direct object of dekomenos. I receive or welcome, as some instances. So, the one receiving wisdom in the night. This is just a simple prepositional phrase. Remember that nukti is a third declension noun. And so what you have here is the lexical form is nukes. And then recall in chapter 11, you saw nukes, and then it would give you the genitive form, nuktos. Nukes and nuktos. And the reason why they give you the genitive form is so that you can know that this is, that you can know which form this is. So, which pattern the declensions run. Kathudon is also present active participle, masculine singular nominative, and so kathudon also is describing the subject here. So let's put all of verse 8, sentence 8 together, and then I'll have to wrap it up. I won't be able to get to verse 9 because our video is almost approaching 17 minutes, and I'm afraid it will be too long to upload into Canvas. So here we go. And drawing near into the village, or approaching the village, the brothers saw him, and they spoke to each other, saying, "Behold, the wise one comes, the one who receives wisdom in the night while sleeping." So that's generally my process of how I would put something together. I'm looking at forms, I'm looking at context to see if it's a potentially ambiguous form that could be a few different things. I'm looking at context to see how that can help me out. When I see a verb, I immediately look for a subject to determine precisely what's going on. I recognize case endings because the form of a word often determines its function in a sentence. And so I kind of work my way through like that. I'm paying attention to lexical forms. So remember, we were talking about engizunta here. I know this isn't this is not a perfect participle or an aorist participle, because I know that the lexical form is engizo, and the participle here is built off of that present form engizonta. And so these are some of the things that I look for when I am translating through a sentence. And so I hope that this is helpful. I hope that this kind of thing is useful for you, and maybe we can continue this sort of work in the future with me filming some of these, especially on potentially tricky sentences like these. Thank you very much.